It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Wednesday, April 13th. And this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Wednesday? We got current news from around the world, realizing from the Tuesday Proverbs, and Danny's money, but I'll be doing it this week one more time. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It's the middle of the week. It's already hump day. It is Wednesday, and I'm thankful for all of you joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. Looking forward to some amazing head leaders preaching tonight, so let's start the day well with today's show. Of course, remind everyone, build the community. Let's like and comment. Tell me how things are going. You can ask questions, answer some questions, and those of you guys out there, you know that every Thursday I do have Question and Answer Thursday. Go ahead and put your questions out there. I would love to help you guys out if I can answer them. I don't know every single answer to every question, but to the ones that I do know or I might have a little bit more insight on, I will definitely do my best, all right? So this is it, everyone. It's not really it because it's just Wednesday. This is the last Wednesday of this week. All right. So today's Danny's money. He's really busy with his university applications and such. So I'm going to talking a little bit more about some other crypto projects. I'm going to kind of give you an update on the baked beans that I did last week. And then also, I'm going to go over another project that will help you guys out to understand some of the other things that I'm doing right now, especially when it comes to the metaverse. So I have this really cool project that I'm in right now involved called The Neighbors, and we'll talk about that at the very end, all right? So for me, interesting prayer last night. Last night, especially this week's message is all about, hey, we got to meet with God. So I'm praying. I'm like, God, I really need this prayer more than anything else. And I already got an answer within a day. Like, this is the week. Like, it comes out in the Proverbs too that we need to pray. There's a reason for it. But God, if you meet with God, He will answer your prayer. Right? So I was really excited last night because, there was a word study I did, everything else. That one's already out on Patreon. But what was it? It was like, I was praying and I was like, God, you're going to answer my prayers, but I am so not bored, but I'm like, spiritually, I need more, right? And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I haven't really lectured for like 8 months because I left Malaysia. I stopped lecturing then. And then I went to LA for 4 months. And then I've been here for 3.5 months. So it's been almost 8 months now. And honestly, I haven't taught once. So here I am like, God, this podcast is great. Working on my finances is great. All these other different things, but I am spiritually not bored, but I'm spiritually like inactive. I need to do something. And today, just 2 things came in. It was pretty crazy. So I was just like, wow, God, you're really answering that fast. There's like someone called me from another region saying, hey, there's this newcomer. We need a lecturer, this, and this. And I told them straight out, I was like, you know what? I haven't lectured in 8 months. And I'm kind of apprehensive. Like, I don't even know if I can do it that well, right? And of course, I know in my head is the more I do it, the better I'll get. But I'm still like, gosh, like, can I just really get back into it like this? And I was like, all right, you know what? And then before I even hung up the call, I get another call and they're like, hey, we have some like new members and people who might, they want to talk to you about certain things and about the word and stuff like that. It's like, oh, wow. It's like, it was almost like instantaneously, I've already got 2 things lined up for me, right? And I was just like, wow, God, yeah, it is happening lightning quick this week. And I hope you guys too understand that God really wants to solve the problems. But of course, it's not just these types of problems. The big ones we're dealing with is like the slander and the issues that are happening right now, stuff in the Ukraine. I've had a couple realizations about that too, but it's something that I was like, wow, God is really going to answer. So if he's going to answer these small ones, just know that other big ones take a little bit more time, but we need to know he's going to answer it. So we really have to pray, especially for the situation that's going on in Providence and in the world right now too. So I hope it's something that all of us can really think about even more. So yeah, that's really exciting news for me, because that happened within 24 hours of the Sunday message. And I was just like, that's crazy, right? Another one was kind of cool. Oh, well, tomorrow we have a video. Well, should I talk about that? One thing I did, I thought about when I was praying about the Ukraine and Russia. I'm like, there's so much politics, so many of these different things going on. Like how, I do believe this is a kind of like physical thing that is manifested because of the spiritual situation going on in Providence. And I was really praying, and then the inspiration came is Russia is obviously the stronger army, more powerful, more stronger, more everything. And they're invading another country. And in the same way too, when you kind of look at when people are slandering or people trying to attack us, they are invading our country. And we may be the ones that are the underdogs because they might have the law on their side or the public opinions on their side, whatever all these things are. But when you see what's happening in the Ukraine too, these people are defending their homes, and they're doing such a crazy, amazing job that even the Russians are being pushed back. And when I looked at that, I was like, wow, that's really incredible more than anything else. And I thought to myself, is like, you know what? We're kind of like, we're not the same situation like, the politics and all the stuff about gas and oil and wheat, all those other different things. We take that out of the equation. It is people defending their home, because the people in Ukraine are not the ones dealing with the politics. They're just dealing with someone is invading their country, right? And they're putting their life on the line to defend themselves, where all these other people from Russia, they're like, what, what's going on? And some of them probably don't even want to be there. But I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, this is our situation. We need to defend our country, the country of Providence. And we really, really need to be those that pray for it more than anything else. So I really hope it's something that we can get ourselves to understand at a much higher level too. Okay. So, and I think it's exactly what this week's message is saying is, if you pray and you connect with God, you meet with God, then what's going to happen? You're actually going to realize new things, because God's thoughts are so much different than ours. All right. So that is quite exciting for me. I can't, it makes me want to pray even more. So I'm getting, I got to make sure that I get ready for the 1 p.m. prayer too. Tomorrow's video is actually different than I thought it was. I told you guys for the last couple of days, it's once saved, always saved, but it's actually a different video this week. Right? The video this week is going to be the biggest reason we have a weak prayer life. Right? It's an interesting topic, right? So it's about prayer life, and it's perfect for what's happening right now with our prayer conditions. Why is our prayer life so weak? And that's going to be the topic for the video, was the biggest reason we have a weak prayer life, the biggest reason, right? So that's going to be quite exciting. It's for you, your newcomers, it's going to be really good. And also remember, this week's Sunday edition, we have Veronica Kramer from Europe, and she's in Germany right now. First Blessed family in Europe. Amazing family, so cute. I met her husband when he was a newcomer, like when he wasn't even passed. It was right at the time when he just started coming to church. So that was quite exciting too, and it's amazing to see that he's married and he's got kids and he's just doing really well for himself. So I'm super happy about that too. All right, so let's get into the featured artist of the day. All right, so what's happening here, guys? This featured artist of the day, we're gonna start off with Star Aiden Verity from New Zealand. It's gonna be another good song. It's one of her older ones, but it's still a recent one, but not the latest one. This one is Never Too Much. I hope you guys really enjoy this. And then we have Kuma-chung from Japan with The Greatest Blessing 2022 version, and then we'll end things off with J. Root from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with World of Us featuring Seungyeon.
The sky, a bucket of pour what you cry. Put in your dogs, your cats, your do's and don'ts. Your ups, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, but now I won't. Whatever you want. what you want. It's never too much, there's no such thing as too much, baby. What you wanna bring, bring. It's never too much for me. My eyes won't pop, my skin won't bleed. I don't run out, I don't give up. The lights don't flicker and the good times don't stop. So don't worry, make a scene. It's never too much for me. 'Cause some new eyes, give them a try to help you see we're all alright. I know you like a narrower focus, down to see only me every moment. If anyone says you're acting too extreme, tell them you don't wanna die stuck inside a dream. Whatever you want, what you want is fine by me. It's never too much, there's no such thing as too much, baby. What you wanna bring, bring. It's never too much for me. My eyes won't pop, my skin won't bleed. I don't run out, I don't give up. The lights don't flicker and the good times don't stop. So don't worry, make a scene. It's never too much for me. Never too much, it's never too much. There's no such thing as too much, baby. What you wanna bring, bring. It's never too much for me. My eyes won't pop if you give me a squeeze. I don't run out, I don't give up. The lights don't flicker and the good times don't stop. So don't worry, make a scene. It's never too much for me. Never too much for me. Never too much, never too much. Never too much, never too much. Never too much, never too much for me. Never too much for me.
平成もう終わり令和の時代成長下から戦う時代うまくいかないうまくやれないことが多いけど決して諦めないあれから7年の月日が経ち蒔いた種は少しずつ芽を出し今すべて捨てられざらいあなたに告げて Be alright どんなに険しい道のりでも果てない壁に阻まれても It's fly away Fly away, yeah 天高く頂上目指す観難の波が押し寄せてもこんなに愛が溢れてるから立ち上がれ yeah 一人じゃない It's your love
最高の祝福得る時代愛そうこれからの未来に期待世界はまだまるで瞑想未来永劫したくない戦争この時代に訪れた平和最も大きな愛をくれたメシアただ確信してずっと愛そう感謝が溢れる死の栄光
どんなに険しい道のりでも果てない壁に阻まれても It's fly away Fly away, yeah 天高く頂上目指す観難の波が押し寄せてもこんなに愛が溢れてるから立ち上がれ yeah 一人じゃない Love for love 主の愛とその恵み忘れない くださった、惜しみなくくださった主に感謝する。永遠に主のそばで生きられる、夢ではない現実、主を愛します。最高の祝福をくださった、心は天国です、感謝します。主と輝く歴史なそう、私を使ってください。愛してます、愛してます。
And that was J Root from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with World of Us. And that's featuring Seung Young. Before that was Kuma-chung from Japan with the 2022 version of The Greatest Blessing. I really, really enjoyed that song. And before that is Ju-Star Aiden Verdi from New Zealand with Never Too Much. All right, so let's get into some current news going on around the world. And of course, we need to hear these different types of news that are happening at a world scale, like the Russia-Ukraine crisis, so that we can pray about it better. And we really be able to understand God's heart when we see these tragic, amazing blessings or judgments or whatever it is that we see. We're really able to pray and understand God's shimjung much more deeply when we see all the things that are happening. So as Sunsim says, watch the world news to see what God is doing in the world. Watch the world news so that we can comfort God's heart. And we got to watch the world news so that we can pray even better knowing the situation. Okay, so let's get into the Russia-Ukraine crisis. What are the things that we've missed in the last 24 hours? Russian President Vladimir Putin says peace talks have reached a dead-end situation after Ukraine made allegations about war crimes. Speaking in a rare public appearance, Putin dismisses the discovery of dead bodies lying in the streets in the Ukrainian town of Bucha as fake. He insists Russian military's goals in Ukraine are noble. Ukraine and Russia are building up their military forces in the eastern Ukrainian region of Donbass as Moscow switches the focus of its offensive. Now, the US and Britain say they are looking into reports that chemical weapons have been used by Russian forces attacking Mariupol, and some 4.8 million of Ukraine's 7.5 million children have been displaced since the start of the war, the UN says. So think about that. We're talking more than half of the children have been displaced since the beginning of this war. So that's really, really a sad news to hear. What happened in the peace talks, though, that that Putin is like really upset with. This is the latest from the Russian president, and also the view from the Ukrainian side. Putin says talks with Ukraine have again returned to a dead-end situation while meeting his Belarusian ally, Alexander Lukashenko. He also says Russia's military operation will continue, blaming Ukraine for inconsistency in key issues from talks and fake claims about war crimes. However, Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak has today told Reuters that although negotiations are extremely difficult, they will continue. Podolyak said he believes Russia is trying to put pressure on future peace talks by making public statements beforehand. Now, in the Donbass region, right, this battle in East Ukraine is expected to be bloody and decisive, and something that's going to be what's going to turn the tide of this war. So people in eastern Ukraine know the Russians are about to step up their offensive, and even the dogs on the streets seem to know and can be heard barking whenever there's a heavy thump of artillery in the distance. Hundreds of thousands of people have already fled the relative safety of western Ukraine. Once again, large columns of Russian vehicles have been spotted by satellite, this time heading towards the east. Now, here in the Donbass, they've also seen signs of Ukraine bringing in more military equipment, including armored vehicles and longer-range air defense systems, but not in the volume of Russia's reinforcements. Ukraine may be more tactically astute about their movements or simply have less. Both are probably true. Now, many believe this next phase of the war in the east could decide the outcome of this conflict, and many also expect it to be bloody. Russia will struggle to make significant advances while Ukraine continues to have effective air defenses and artillery. Both sides have until now had similar levels of forces in the region, around 30 to 40,000 troops, but Western officials say Russia is aiming to double or even triple its strength in the region, though they add that might take considerable time as Russia reconstitutes its units. Some estimates suggest Russia has lost 20% of its strength since the start of this war. So that is kind of the updates we have for the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Going over to France, we have this runoff election with Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen. And these are two different visions for the presidency. They dueled for the top job in France 5 years ago, but now Emmanuel Macron faces a far stronger challenge from a reinvigorated leader of the far right in Marine Le Pen. Now, the second round of France's presidential election takes place on April 24th, and the polls suggest the race will be close. So who are these two candidates, and what is their vision for France? Now, Emmanuel Macron, we all know him. He's the current president. He's the incumbent. And he became France's youngest president ever in 2017. And it basically sealed a meteoric rise that came less than a year after he launched a centrist political movement called La République en Marche, I believe, right? and that's to challenge the traditional parties. He easily defeated Marine Le Pen in the 2017 runoff, winning 66% of the vote. And 5 years on, he's now 44 years old, which means he is like the same age as me, and he's president of a country. He continues to dominate French politics, but the polls suggest this time his far-right rival has a real chance of unseating him from the Élysée Palace. So he swept to power as an unknown quantity, a charismatic former economy minister who had never run for elected office before, offering a more centrist vision for France, and his rise to power appeared effortless, but he has had to navigate choppy political waters to push through the controversial reforms he promised voters. Now, Macron, he made it easier for companies to fire workers, cut taxes, and introduce tough security laws to tackle terrorism, but he was forced to scrap a proposed fuel tax in 2018 after weeks of unrest stoked by yellow vest protesters known as Gilets jaunes, right? Now, other reforms, including a promise to bring the jobless rate down from more than 10% to 7% by 2022, were hit by the COVID pandemic. So, that's really not his fault. Now, although unemployment is currently down to 7.4%, which is great. So he is now proposing full employment within 5 years, cutting taxes by 15 billion euro a year for households and businesses, and paying for his programs by gradually raising the retirement age from 62 to 65. Now, increasing the pension age is unpopular with voters already facing a cost of living crunch. His opponents have also accused him of relying on expensive advice from consultants, including U.S. firm McKinsey. Now, Marine Le Pen has denounced him as a wealthy candidate of finance, even though she is something of a property owner herself. So he has had to rethink a controversial plan to make a back-to-work benefit for the unemployed called RSA conditional on 15 to 20 hours of work a week. But Mr. Macron also wants to invest in the armed forces, doubling France's reserve force. Now, Marine Le Pen, who is she? This is her third try at power, but her biggest chance of the three. So she has made this election a choice about the future of her country, society, and civilization, and promised to restore France's sovereignty. A political player in France for years, Marine Le Pen became a Euro MP before acting on her presidential ambitions, and after she was trounced by Macron in the presidential runoff in 2017, she rebranded her party as Rassemblement National, or National Rally. I'm so sorry. If you're French out there and I just totally butchered the name, Rassemblement National, right? Or the National, let's just call it the National Rally. So she has crafted a consistent anti-immigration, anti-EU message, and Emmanuel Macron has labeled her policies as racist. So she has in the past expressed her admiration for Putin and relied on a Russian bank loan for her 2017 presidential campaign, and she condemns his invasion of Ukraine while warning of the risk of sanctions to the French economy. And she's 53 years old. And she has promised to halt abuse of the right to asylum with a referendum on restricting immigration, and she wants to ban the Islamic hijab being worn in public areas. And she also seeks to turn the European Union into an alliance of nations unchallenged by EU laws and pull France out of NATO's integrated command. Now, Marine Le Pen wants to waive income tax for those under 30 and exempt companies from tax contributions if they raise minimum wages by 10% for many of their staff. So what are her chances? Opinion polls give her genuine chance of victory. The final stretch of this campaign will decide whether she can improve on 2017. So that should be quite interesting over there in France in this runoff election. Let's see who God chooses. Last but not least, some sad news over there in the Philippines. Tropical storm Meggy. 25 people are killed in the Philippines tropical storm. So at least 25 have died so far in landslides and floods in the Philippines after Tropical Storm Meggy swept the nation. On Tuesday, rescue crews were still battling to retrieve people stranded on the eastern and southern coasts. Meggy, known locally as Agaton, hit the archipelago on Sunday with winds of up to 65 kilometers per hour. It was the first such storm of the year. The Philippines typically sees an average of 20 each year. Now, more than 13,000 people fled to higher ground shelters as a storm lashed the east coast. Heavy rain and winds knocked out power supply, flooded homes and fields, and caused mudslides in villages. Now, images shared by authorities and locals online showed rescuers wading through muddy swamps and using rafts on fast-flowing rivers to try and reach isolated areas of submerged homes. One of the worst affected areas was the province of Leyte. 22 bodies have been retrieved after being buried under a landslide, local authorities in Beibei City said on Monday. The National Disaster Agency also confirmed that at least 3 people had died in the Davao region in the south. The storm's conditions were due to ease Tuesday, and it comes about 4 months after Super Typhoon Ray devastated many of the nation's southeast islands in December, killing at least 375 people and affecting 500,000. Now, that was the worst storm to hit the Philippines that year, and experts said it had grown stronger far quicker than anticipated, and scientists say human-caused climate change has led to a greater intensity and power in tropical storms. The Philippines has experienced some of its most deadly storms since 2006, and this tropical storm Meggy has been ranked as one of the nation's most vulnerable. Right? Oh, not this storm, but the Philippines is ranked as one of the nation's most vulnerable to climate disasters due to its geography. Okay, so that is the top 3 news in the world right now. So we're going to get into some sporting news. Only one game in the NHL, but it had to do with a team that's right underneath us, but no longer underneath us. So yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, they just defeated the Montreal Canadiens last night 4-2. They jump ahead of Vancouver by 1 point. But of course, they've played one more game than us, so we have a game tonight against a big game against the Las Vegas Golden Knights, who are 4 points ahead of us. So if we can beat the Las Vegas Golden Knights tonight in regular time, okay, then we'll jump to 82 points. Winnipeg goes back down, and we'll only be 2 points away from Vegas, which is, if we can just jump there, it'll be great, and then it'll bring us to only 4 points away from the Los Angeles Kings and the Dallas Stars. So it is something that we really need to win tonight in regular time. And the reason is, if you go to overtime, both teams get a point too. So it's kind of, we'll only gain 1 point instead of 2 on Las Vegas, which is not good. Either way, so that is the news in the NHL. NBA, the regular season is officially over, and now the playoffs are going to start tonight, right? It's starting with the play-ins, right? So we have the 7th, 8th, I believe the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th teams. I believe it's those teams that are going to be playing. In the East, Brooklyn will be playing Cleveland, and in the East, Brooklyn plays Cleveland and Charlotte plays Atlanta. And then in the West, it's the Clippers playing Minnesota and San Antonio playing New Orleans. And we'll see who can make it into the big playoffs. So if you look at what's happening right now, we have Miami, who's number 1. They will be playing whoever finishes in the 8th seed between Brooklyn, Cleveland, Charlotte, and Atlanta. And then Boston, the number 2 seed, plays the person who's going to be the 9th seed, right? Or the 8th seed. And then in the other games that are set in the playoffs, it's Milwaukee, 3rd seed. Milwaukee plays Chicago, which is the 6th seed. And then Philadelphia, the 4th seed, plays Toronto, which is going to be a great matchup. In the West, same thing's going to happen. Phoenix and Memphis are 1 and 2, and they're going to wait for who wins the play-ins. But we have Golden State Warriors, number 3, Golden State Warriors playing Denver, and then Dallas, number 4, playing Utah. So it's going to be an exciting playoffs over here in the NBA. Last but not least, we'll go into some soccer news. The summer transfer window is coming around the corner. Bayern Munich's Robert Lewandowski, he's seeking a trade possibly to Barcelona. And, one of the big things is if he moves over there, it's going to boost his Ballon d'Or chances. He already, think about this. He's got 46 goals in 40 matches, which is ridiculous. And one of his biggest dreams is to play in the La Liga, especially for either Real Madrid or Barcelona. His contract will finish next year, and he still hasn't made a decision if he wants to go to another team. In Manchester United news, they have a new manager, the Ajax manager coming in. And the big question is, who are you going to keep and who are you going to send away? Right? And the big question is probably going to be Ronaldo. And Ronaldo, 37 years old. Yes, he's old, but they're saying arguably he's the best player. He's a top goal scorer this season for Man U at that age. And, he might not be as effective, right? But how the manager works with him is going to maximize his talents or not. And, the manager's going to have to decide, do they really want him or do they want to start with someone a little bit younger, stick with Pogba or Maguire or all these other people that could be running out of a contract pretty soon. So let's see what happens, because ultimately, when we think about it, it's just like a church. A church is like a soccer team also, And, of course, the players, the people that are running, the people that are on the front lines, they make a huge difference. But also the front office, right? The front office on a soccer team, any organization plays just an incredible role. They make the culture. They allow people to be at their best. And I'm really, really hoping that this is going to be something that's going to be awesome that happens here too. And let's see what happens to Man U. They do need a resurgence and a revival because they're just not a good team right now. All right, so that's the news in soccer, world news, which means we are going to get into the golden time. And of course, the golden time is a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. And we're going to start off with the person of mission running for providence. And then we'll get into the path that fulfilled dreams. And then we'll end things off with a brand new song that just came out from IETT, or is it PEMD? But it's brand new English song came out. I love how they're just pumping out more and more songs. This song is called I Write a Letter on the Clouds, right? So, I actually, for the remix version of this, I was in it for the Korean one, but this is a new one. Can't wait to hear it. So everyone, as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
You who run only for God in the new history. Go out and run today, and tomorrow you will fly. Preaching and preaching again, with a heart of purpose. How many years passed since the day you left your hometown? Turn away from the world, time to run, time to fly. If you give all of your youth, it won't be in vain. Turn away from the world, rapture now, live with love. Give your youth, it won't be in vain. You who run only for God on the railways of life, preach to Korea today, then go preach to all the world. Providence life is the best, it is always worthwhile. How many years passed since you left from the former faith? Now turn toward the world, time to run, time to fly. If you give all of your youth, it won't be in vain. Now turn toward the world, rapture now, live with love. Give your youth, it won't be in vain. You who row only for God on the rough seas of life, you sail the Arctic Sea. Now today sail all the world. Strong winds and waves always come on the vast wide oceans. How many years passed since you came to the new history? Turn away from the storms, time to run, time to fly. To the new history, heaven here on earth. Turn away from the storms, rapture now, live with love. Give your youth, it won't be in vain.
Starting from sunrise to the sunset, today again out on the sports field, and then here and there running round, running, flying, taking action again. God watches over me, and next to me the Holy Spirit, she is by my side. And she says, live your life for the will, headed towards the goal. We're true purpose, live every day in love. So you and I, we shall live serving God and the Spirit, giving them all our love, sharing true joy, that's the joy of love in this lifetime. And when the body's end has come, we will go to the place God prepared. Our spirits and our souls will live based on our deeds when we lived on earth, and our love for God. We'll live in the world of gold forever, yes, forever. We'll live in love with God in that heaven of gold. I love you so much. I love you more than anything, mighty God, Holy Spirit. Everyone, let's promise to love, respect, and serve them each day. Let's praise them joyfully. This is how we should live. It's the path of hope, where we can fulfill our greatest dreams. And we were born for this life of heaven. Lord, you're the one I have come to love. When I see you without knowing, I begin to smile. More than anyone on earth, I love you the most. Lord, I cherish you more than myself. Clasping both my hands, I pray with all my heart to fulfill eternal love with you. Lord, I'll always love you truly, I confess. With all my heart, I reach out to you, Lord, soaring to the sky.
that was I Write a Letter on the Clouds. Wow, that is an old school song. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I'm glad that they're redoing these old songs too. Quality is really, really good. And big shout outs to all the entire team in IETTPMD. All right. Before that is The Path That Fulfilled Dreams. And of course, that first song, The Person of Mission, Running Providence. Okay, so let's get into the word study today. Now that our hearts are in that nice spiritual place, let's take a look at Tuesday Proverbs. Let me get a sip of my coffee first. Ooh, that's some good Peruvian coffee. All right, so let's get into the Tuesday Proverbs. And of course, every single Wednesdays, we will go over some Proverbs, go into it a little bit more deeply. And we're going to kind of do like a word study on it so that we can think about it more. A lot of times we do listen to the word. We do read the word over, but the big thing that matters more than anything else is not going to be how many times we read it, but is how well do we understand what the word is saying to us, okay? So let's start off first with number 1, right? So today I believe there's only about 8 Proverbs, so there's still not a lot coming out, so let's see how deep we can get into some of these. Number 1 is living with God is a life of meeting with God, okay? So this is quite interesting here. Living with God is a life of meeting with God. So living is about what? Living is about meeting, okay? So if we're living with God, then we have to constantly meet with God. And I think, I think we have to think about this. I thought this to myself is, wow, living is meeting. And I thought to myself is, yeah, it's the same thing with relationships in life. Like, what is the point of a relationship if we never meet? Because if you never meet, then the relationship never gets better. You never get closer. And I thought about that as like, oh, this is why a lot of people feel far away from God. Or people get their faith becomes colder, is because they're not meeting with God. So, imagine you have a relationship with a husband or wife, and all you do is phone and text, but you never meet. Can you imagine what type of marriage would be like that? Not being able to meet, not being able to make those thoughts reality. Right? The thoughts of talking, of holding hands, embracing, spending time together, being with each other. There is such a huge difference of just texting, just phoning, and actually meeting. And I think it's something this is why it's, when people talk about the chase, when people are chasing after, like, even for me in high school, one thing that was very interesting for me was the chase of trying to like a girl and trying to, date them was so big, right? It's like, oh my gosh, because it's this anticipation of being able to meet with each other more than anything else, right? Will this person recognize me? Will I meet this person? And we have to realize too is just like these relationships in life, what's the point of the relationship if you never meet? And this is why living with God is a life of meeting with God. It may not mean you're meeting with God all the time. It's not like you're with your husband and wife 24/7, which would kind of not be that cool. But you might fight too much, right? Like what happened during the pandemic, husband and wives that are just staying with each other the whole time. But when we think about this, it's like, wait a second, if that's the case, right? If that's the case, we have to think to ourselves is, one of the biggest reasons why their faith grows cold is because they stop meeting with God. Right? And that's the thing that we have to understand to the next level more than anything else, right? Which leads us to number 2. It says, the life of those who love God and the Holy Spirit is twofold, living with God every day and meeting with God every day. Now, what is interesting about this is it separates between living and meeting, which means these two things are completely different. Living is not meeting, right? Meeting and living are two different things. Of course, they're both within a relationship, you're meeting, right? And you're living. However, they are two different things. So I thought to myself, it's like, wow, then what's the difference between living and meeting? So then meeting is the actual meet, right? So you meet someone, you're together with them physically, right? When you look at a regular relationship. And if you look at the flip side is then what does it mean that, well, living is not about meeting. Right? Meeting is the actual meeting, but living with doesn't actually mean you're literally together, right? So I thought about this to myself. I was like, you know what? In the same way too, I'm like, even at this moment for the last 3 months, I'm living with my parents. But it doesn't mean I'm meeting them all the time, but I'm living with them, right? So we share the same space, and we think about each other. We're always conscious about each other, as in, oh, I wonder what I can get. Oh, I wonder if I can wash the dishes for my mom. Oh, what does my dad need? Like, I was even thinking about my time here is, I'm living with my mom and my dad. I see them every once in a while. I see them in the morning. I go to exercise, whatever. They go out to work and exercise, whatever it is. And when we meet, it's really interesting because, like, even my mom, when she sees me, she's like, oh, what do you want to eat for lunch? Or what do you want? And she's thinking about me. Oh, do you think we ran out of this? And then for me, I'm also thinking like, oh, you know what? They're watching such a small TV. Oh, wait, my dad needs a new desk. Oh, wait, my dad needs a bigger screen. Oh, wait, my dad needs this. My dad needs that. Right? And even though we're not meeting all the time, we're constantly aware and thinking of each other, trying to figure out how we can make our lives better and better, right? And I think that's a really, really important thing that we have to think about, right? We're living with each other, not meeting all the time. So a married person is not always meeting their lover. However, they're living with them all the time. Wherever they go, whatever they're doing, they think, oh yeah, I think my wife would like this. Oh yeah, I should text my wife about this. Oh, let me send a text. Let me do this. Oh, I should buy this gift as a surprise. And they're thinking about their counterpart and what they would want, right? They think about their counterpart as a person. They think like, oh, I should take my wife out here sometime. They're not meeting at that time, but they're really living together because they're always on each other's thoughts. And then the meeting becomes the most intimate time. And the meeting can be intimate or can be disastrous depending on, are you living together? Meaning, are you constantly thinking about each other? Because if I have this anticipation, I can't wait to see my wife. I can't wait to see my wife. Come on, I'm going to give her this present. I can't wait to see the smile on her face. That's completely different, right? It's true, because now I'm like, oh, wait a second. So now I'm thinking about, oh, here's my wife. And I want her to, and I'm thinking about, all these different things I could talk to her about. And I have this anticipation of seeing her again because I love her so much. And this meeting, if you live with each other, you can't wait to meet. And it becomes that really personal, intimate time where all the things that you were thinking about in your head all day, you bring it up to her, you talk to her, and it all comes to fruition. And you're building this real love. So when I was listening to this, I was like, wow, I never thought about that as a separate thing of living and meeting. But the more deeply we think about it, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, that living and meeting are two things that happen in a relationship, but they're not necessarily the same thing, right? So that leads us to number 3, okay? It says, pray so that you will meet with God in your everyday life, okay? So now it's interesting because it's kind of like taking Proverb 1 and 2 about living with God is meeting, and we need to live with God every day and meet with God every day. So how do we meet with, how are we going to live and meet with the invisible Almighty God? He's invisible, right? Which means that the big thing about living with each other is prayer. That's a big thing, right? It's such a big thing because that is the time we get to meet with each other. So I was like, well, what's the living part then? Well, the living part is when I'm thinking, right? When I'm thinking about God, I'm thinking about the things that I'm going through in life and the difficulties, whatever it is. And then I'm like, oh, I can't wait to meet God. I really can't wait to meet God. And you talk to God, right? And you're like, you're praying to meet God in your everyday life, right? So meeting God in your everyday life, I thought this was cool is, wouldn't it be so amazing? Like the spouse, the lover that you love so much just pops in for lunch and says, hey, let's go out to lunch. And you're like, what? Oh my gosh, you came all the way here. And it's like such an amazing thing that it'd be so amazing to have someone you love so much that automatically just pops up out of nowhere, surprises you at work for lunch, gives you gifts, sends these amazing texts or whatever it is. And it just throughout the day. And that's something we'd be like, wow, that's an amazing relationship. But in the same way, too, with God, sometimes we see God and we meet with him during the day when we look at a cloud and we see a shape of a heart. When we see, when we just see these small things happen, what our parents or people are doing for us, we're like, wow, this is amazing. Wow, this is so amazing, right? And I do believe that we have to have that mentality, right, of that lover's mentality to meet with God in our everyday life and pray about, say, God, I want to meet you all day. I want to see what you're doing for me. Oh, wow, my mom did this for me. Man, Holy Spirit, it really reminded me of you, right? We need to pray so that we can meet God in our everyday life, and then we'll think even more about God. Now, number 4 and 5, I put together. 4 is when you pray to meet God and finally meet him, talk to him and plead with him to solve problems for you as an individual and for the providence of this time period, right? And then number 5 says, God saved Elijah, David, Daniel, and Esther from death because they all prayed to meet with God. Therefore, pray to meet with God and plead with him, right? And, when sometimes when receiving these proverbs, and we have to understand what Sunseem's going through at this time. It's not an easy thing to be going through this. It's like going through this all over again. When you think it's over and the slander comes back, you have to meet with him to be saved. And this is what we need to do too, as we're kind of like I talked about in the beginning, like Ukraine. People are invading their country. All these people have done nothing to do, nothing wrong. But now this more powerful, bigger country is coming in to invade. And then now they're putting their life on the line. None of these men, like all the people I think over 16 years old, they all stayed in the country to fight. They were all given weapons and everything else to fight against the Russians. Like it's like the David versus Goliath. And that's why it reminds me is like, hey, think about David. David fought Goliath, right? And if you understand how big that is, it's not just David fighting Goliath. And you think to yourself is, oh my gosh, wouldn't you be worried about your life? And the answer is true. The David and Goliath David's worried about his own life. He's fighting this giant. But think about what other types of pressures he has. Number 2, he has the pressure because the loser loses their country, right? Basically it's okay, so David fights Goliath. Whoever wins, you basically, you lose your country or you save your country. He's not only doing this for himself, it's for his country. The country is on his shoulder. Can you imagine how much pressure that is? His family name is on his shoulders because all of a sudden this 17, 18-year-old kid is fighting this giant, right? And it's wow, are they really going to do this? So it's not just about his own life. It's about his nation. It's about his family. It's even Goliath challenging God. That's how big it was. Someone's challenging God, your God, and saying that your God is pathetic and your God is nothing. So you don't only have your family name, your own life, the country, but you have God's name on you too. And he prayed to meet with God. And when he pled, this is when a small boy, a teenager, was able to defeat a great warrior, right? And this is an example that he brought up, right? That we have to understand our situation right now. Look at Elijah. Elijah was running away from King Ahab and Jezebel. And then in the end, he challenges 850 prophets of Baal and Asherah. And loser loses their life. But on top of that, what else they're losing is the entire country of Israel will no longer be worshiping God because they'll see God as the weak God that loses. He's not only losing his own life, he's losing the country that belongs to God. And he had to meet with God. He had to meet God or else he couldn't be answered here, right? David not only defeated Goliath, he had to defeat Saul and all the Philistines and all the people, all the enemies that were coming against him. He had to meet with God. Daniel in the lion's den. Esther for the death of her people. There's so much when you look at this meeting with God, how important it is. We have to realize at this time, it's such a big thing that we have to understand. Number 6 is God told you to pray until you meet him, so he will meet with you if you pray until the end. When you meet with him and petition him regarding various problems, he will answer your plea. And I was just like I told you at the very beginning of the podcast, man, I wanted work to do. I wanted to run. And all of a sudden, within 24 hours, I have two things that I'm getting ready for. Right? This is the promise of the week. And this is why more than anything else, especially this week, pray until you meet God. Get all your prayers answered. Right? But, if you think about it, if you end your prayer, like it kind of continues to number 7. If you end your prayer without meeting God, then what are you going to say? Right? The things that you say is not even to get to God. Even if you said all the things you want to say, it wouldn't even reach God. And I think that's something we have to understand is this is the week. Don't stop. Don't stop and push yourself until the end. Be desperate, right? Plead with God so that you can be saved. So, and that leads us into the last proverb is realize why God is telling you to pray prayers of meeting him this week. You must meet him with him, tell him, and resolve hardships that pertain to yourself and providence, right? Which means what is happening this week? Is there something else happening going on, whether with the slanders or this or that, or is there something that we don't know about, but sometimes seems like we gotta pray this week? There's a reason for all these messages to come out. And even more so, we have to pray these great prayers and pray and just earnestly, Holy Spirit, lead me into that right prayer. And then all these hardships, not only for ourselves, but for all of Providence, will be resolved too. Okay? So that is the end of the word study for today's Tuesday Proverbs. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Go ahead, leave a comment leave a comment if you have anything that you want to add or what you think about today's word study. Would love to hear it. Okay, so that brings us into the song of choice for this Wednesday. And of course, we always play English songs on Wednesday. And I'm going to old school song. This is back in the 80s. This is a song that I always sing it at karaoke, right? Or the norebang, right? I go to karaoke. It's a duet song. I got to find someone who knows how to sing all the harmonies. Love it. Actually, last time I was in Houston, we were getting back from the wedding, so tired, and then I was I'm driving, and I don't want to fall asleep, so it was me, and it was like another pastor next to me, and he's very musical, and we just turned this song on, we started singing it, and he was doing all the harmonies. It was hilarious, but this is a great song, great duet. Listen to the lyrics. This is Atlantic Star with Always.
Girl, you are to me all that a woman should be, and I dedicate my life to you always.
A love like yours is rare. It must have been sent from up above, and I know you'll stay this way for always. And we both know that our love
And there it is, an oldie but a goodie. Well, for me at least. I'm not sure. Just comment below. Anyone know this song? Like anyone from my generation or maybe one generation above? Like I know there's a couple people that listen to older music, but this is old school and one of my favorites for karaoke. But if you guys know this song, just drop it in the comments. I'm not sure if you guys have heard this song before. All right, so that means now that the song of choice is done, we're going to get into a great segment called Danny's Money. And of course, this week, once again, he's working on some university applications. So I will be filling in once again, talking about some of the crypto projects that I'm getting into and what I'm actually earning. So everyone, please welcome myself for Danny's Money. Hello, and welcome everyone to another edition of Danny's Money. Yes, I am not Danny, this is Pastor Sky, but I wanted to talk about, I wanted to fill in because he's doing some university applications. I want to talk about two different things today. First is an update on how I'm doing with my baked beans project, and also what new project that I'm trying out, something kind of cool. It's like it has to do with the metaverse, all right? So first, let's get into my project I talked about last week, which is baked beans. Now, how does baked beans work? It is a project where you put in an X amount of money, and then that goes into the project. You can never take it out. Like basically that one's lost. As a sunk cost, you're investing into a project. But through that money, let's just pretend we put in $100. And what happens is they turn those $100 into beans, right? And what happens is through those beans, you're making interest on that $100. It could be anywhere from 1 to 8%, depending on how good the project is going. And let's just say you make the maximum of 8% per day. That's going to be, you're making $8. So after 24 hours, you'll have $8 you can either take and eat it and like put it into your wallet, or you can rebake, which means you compound the interest, right? So after 24 hours, I'll put the $8 back into it, and that means now I'm making interest on $108. And what happens is, the rule of thumb is if we want this to last a long time, the rule of thumb is you rebake for 6 days, and on the 7th day you eat or you take profit. I officially took my first profit last week, and I took around $65 US. So put it this way. I put in $250. Right, I put in $250. About $250. And in my first profit, I took 65, which is about roughly about a fourth. Right, it's about a fourth of it, right? Which means that within 4 weeks, I should be able to get my initial investment back, or my ROI, which means return on investment. I spent $250. It'll take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to get my $250 back, and then everything else after that becomes pure profit. Okay, so I took out $65, and then now every single day I'm getting about $65, and I'm putting it back into and rebaking it into this project, which means that in another 6 days, if you take 65, well, it's gonna be way more than 65, mainly because it gets higher and higher. But let's just say it's only 65 times 6. That means I'm putting in another $390 in the next 6 days, which means my compound will get higher and higher. So next week, it'll be in 2 days. My next eating or taking profits is going to be much more than $65. So I'm getting super excited about this one just to see how this is working. And the big thing about this is I'm just going to be happy when I get my return on investment, which will probably be in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then just to see how much I'm actually going to make altogether and how long this project's going to last. This project's been around since November, so it's actually been around for a long time. And that's kind of my update. Hopefully we'll see what happens next week. After I take my profit, I'll tell you what I made for that one, and then how much further I'm away from getting my ROI, or my return on investment. And I'll probably be hitting way more than over half, right? Because I had a quarter of it last Friday, and then I take another profit on another Friday, and then I'm going to have much more than 65, probably anywhere from 75 to $80 I'll be taking in that one. So super excited to see what's going to happen with my next eating or taking in profit, all right? So the next project I am in is called The Neighbors. Now this has to do with the metaverse, and we're buying real estate. It's virtual real estate. So it's kind of cool. So what happens is there's 3 different types of properties. There's a condo, which is the cheapest. The condo is 4 tokens. Then you have a home, which is 7 tokens, and then a mansion is 10 tokens. Now, how much if you want to buy one of these properties, you just pay by the tokens. You have to buy the tokens. So if I want a condo, I'll buy 4 tokens. How much are the tokens worth? They're going to be worth, at the beginning, they were at $50 per token, which means it'll be like $200 for the condo. It'll be $350 for the home, and then also $500 for a mansion, right? To buy it on the metaverse. So what happens next is we, in pre-sale, a bunch of us all bought these properties. And what happens is I bought a mansion. So after buying the mansion, what happens next? It goes into a public sale, and then how much is a token worth right now? The token itself is worth $130 now. So it was $50 that I bought it at, right? And now it's worth $130, which means that already the cost of this mansion, which is 10 tokens, is no longer $500. It's now worth $1,300. Okay, so I've already made money on buying this house, just the property itself. Now, the next thing that's kind of interesting is each of these properties make money every day. So it's a passive income. So my mansion makes 0.1 tokens per day, right? So imagine if it was just at $50 per token, then I'd be making $5 per day, right? Which means every $50 every 10 days. And in a month, I'd make $150. Like 30 days would be $150, right? However, since the token has come to $130, so how much am I making every single day? Well, the token's $130, which means I'm making $13 a day instead of $5. So if I bought the mansion at $500, what does that mean? It means that my ROI is going to come back much more quickly, right? Because now that I'm getting $13, right? If I take that 500 divided by 13, which means I should be getting my investment all back within 38 days, which means a little over a month, right? So if I get it all back a little over a month, then what's the next thing? Is on top of that, I still have the property, which means I'm getting paid every single day, 0.1 token, which right now is worth about $13 a day. And then on top of it, I still have the house, which is worth $1,300. Okay. And what eventually happens is, they're making an entire ecosystem where you're in the metaverse. You can go using your avatars. You have parties. You charge for parties. You can build a cafe, and you can buy furniture, and all these things, these NFT furnitures and whatnot, they're going to raise the income that you earn. Right? So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. So say, for instance, I get this NFT that gives me 0.03. Right? So if I get a rare NFT that's 0.03, that means that my mansion is not going to be giving me 0.1, but instead it's giving me 0.13. Right? So then now my return on investment is going to be even higher. Okay, so this is based off, the metaverse hasn't been open yet, but this is another project that's based on this really, really big thing, which is buying property on the metaverse, right? Which is a huge thing that's happening right now. And if you get it, the big thing is you got to get into these projects early. So I got in really, really early at $50 a token. But now it's worth $130 a token, which means I've made more. I've made about 1.5 times already just on the property. And then on top of it, I'm getting passive income from this house that's giving me 0.1 tokens or 1 token every 10 days. At this current price is $130, which means that, think about it. In less than 40 days, I'm going to be making all my money back. And then from that point on, it is pure profit. So it's really, really quite interesting how this metaverse and how cryptocurrency is working right now. But because it's so brand new, there is so much room to grow. But of course, like I'm going to tell you guys, I'm not a financial advisor or anything else like that. But you need to do this DYOR. And everyone says this is, no one's a financial advisor. No one knows what's going to happen, but you need to do your own research and invest wisely. And the one thing that they did say was, if you want to invest, make sure you only invest money that you don't need, which basically means that you're okay losing it. Then you won't get stressed and you won't make these emotional decisions on, oh my gosh, I should have, and you get so stressed by looking at this project every single day. Right? And that's what you don't want to do. So even for me, I got the little amount, and that's all I'm going to do. And that's why I'm not so worried. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. What's going to happen here? Oh no, what's going to happen here, right? No, we have to be people that are very fiscally responsible and do your own research and invest only what you can. And, then you can have some fun earning and making money. And it's really fun to make money. It's really fun to look at new projects. And I hope for any of you guys out there who are working on this too right now, super thankful and grateful all of you guys for all the work that you guys are doing. But one thing is, if you guys are interested in any of this type of stuff, I am very open to just talking and chatting about it because it's such these are so many interesting projects and stuff out there, and I hope that is something that you guys will really, really be able to benefit from. Also, what is my goal? My eventual goal is to help people to earn passive income so that they can run full-time for Providence. That's the big goal that I have more than anything else, right? So that is it for today's segment of Danny's Money. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that more than anything else. This is the end of today's podcast, which means I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome Wednesday. Have an awesome Wednesday service tonight, which means we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when